Passwords suck. No, really, they suck. Let me tell you why. So let's start by addressing the fact that passwords are absolutely an essential part of the world that we live in today. You've got apps on your phone, you've got apps on your laptop, you've got apps in the browser. All of them, or at least most of them, take passwords for you to be able to access them. Now, acknowledging the fact that passwords are so prevalent doesn't take away from the fact that passwords have some serious downsides. In fact, can you imagine a world that we might get to in the future where we don't even need passwords at all? Well, we're not there yet. So in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why passwords absolutely suck. And then I'm going to tell you some things you can do about it in the meantime. So the first reason why passwords suck is that passwords are hard to remember. Now, I want you to think back to vocabulary tests or geography tests or something like that when you were in elementary school. If you were like me, at least 30 minutes or an hour before the test, you would cram for the test, you'd study as quickly as you could, and maybe you got a decent grade on that test, but then a month later or a year later, or now 15, 20 years later, you don't remember that content like you did the day of that test. And passwords are the same way. I can't tell you how many times I've created a password if I needed to update a password for some reason. I think I'm being creative. I create a new one, and then 2 months later, when I have to log into this app, I forget what it is. And this only gets more difficult the more apps you have. So I have probably 50 or 100 different accounts that I log into on a regular basis, and it would be impossible for me to remember distinct passwords on each different platform. It just doesn't really make sense. So that has 2 really negative implications for users in terms of how they use and create passwords. So first off, users will typically create passwords that are really easy to remember. And we've all been there. You take your favorite hobby, your favorite sports team, your favorite pet name, you add a number to the end, like 1 or 2, you add an exclamation to the end if you need to, and then you capitalize the first letter if you need to. This is based on password requirements, which are getting stronger. But we basically do the minimum we can to meet those password requirements and have an easy password for us to remember. Now, what that means is it's then that much easier for someone to hack or guess your passwords, because you do a password like soccer and the number 6 and an exclamation and a capital S. That's a pretty easy thing for hackers to guess. And this is why you have to be careful with some of these posts on social media that say, take the street name that you grew up on and the name of your first pet and combine those to be your rapper name or whatever it is. You have to be careful of those because those are phishing attacks. They're looking to get information about you that they could use to guess your password. Because you create easy passwords, that also means they're easier to guess. Now, the other implication of the fact that passwords are hard to remember is that typically we end up reusing our passwords across multiple platforms. So a couple of numbers for you. 65% of people reuse passwords across multiple sites and apps. I honestly bet that number is higher, but that's what the statistics that we have show. Now, another one here that's really important is that 50% of people reuse their passwords, not just across their own applications, but also applications that they use at work. So now if they're reusing their password that is already an easy password and they're using it for their work environment, now it's that much easier for companies to get hacked as well. So because passwords are hard to remember, people generate easy passwords and then they reuse them across the board. So that's the downside of passwords. Now, what do you do about it as a developer? Well, one thing you can do to help ease the transition of people onboarding onto your applications is integrate social connections into your application. Allow that user to log in with their Facebook or Google or Twitter accounts that they already have so that they don't have to create another set of credentials that they have to remember specifically for your app. Now, on the consumer side of this, here's the really big tip that you should be doing if you're not already, is using a password manager, something like LastPass or 1Password. A password manager is a centralized place where you can store all of your passwords. You can generate really highly secure passwords that are really random and complicated that you're not going to remember, but that application, LastPass or 1Password, will remember those for you and auto-complete them in the apps that you have to log in. That will help make the process of creating new accounts, remembering your passwords, logging into your applications much easier than if you were trying to create strong passwords for all the different applications yourself. So the second reason that passwords suck is that password resets are a really poor experience. Now, if you think about you're trying to log into an application and you forget that password, now you have to go through this completely separate flow to update or reset your password. You have to click on a link. It'll take you to this form. You enter your email or something. They will send you an email with a magic link. So you go from your browser to your email, even if it's still in the browser, to a different page, back to a new page with this application where you're allowed to reset your password. That's a frustrating experience. It takes time. Like, imagine that you're trying to log into an application, you forget your password, and then all of a sudden you're trying to do something really, really quickly.
And now you have to spend a minute or 2 minutes or however long going through this password reset process.
It's not an ideal customer experience. Now, that's from the customer point of view. Imagine the other side of this as well. A lot of us have probably worked in bigger companies where you can't just trigger a password reset yourself. You have to go through some sort of IT administrator, which is a person that you have to pay, and then you have to take their time to initiate and handle these password requests. I actually sat and did this in IT support when I was in college, where I could help people reset their passwords, but that was money that the university had to pay me, not very much, but they had to pay me to do that. So it's time and money and resources that it takes. In addition to, there's time and money and resources that it takes to actually set up that password reset flow. So that flow does not just come out of nowhere. It takes development time to create it. Then it takes potentially an IT administrator's time to facilitate that password flow for you as well. So password resets are a really poor customer experience, and they take time and resources on the application and developer side to enable. So with that said, what do you do about this? Well, at Auth0, we have enabled device biometrics for your applications. Now, what this means is you can use the sensors on your device that you're already used to using to log into your applications. So how many of you out there, let me know in the comments below, log into your phone using your fingerprint, or log into your laptop with your fingerprint? Or does anybody have a retina scanner or something like that? I'm not sure, but we can enable you to log in with device biometrics using those biometrics that are intrinsic to you, that represent who you are and uniquely identify who you are. This means that I don't necessarily need to remember my password. I can just use my fingerprint to log in and not have to worry about going through this password reset or forgetting it. I just use these to log back into my application. If you're interested in seeing how to set that up inside of Auth0, we've got a link in the description below on how you can to set up WebAuthn passwordless device biometrics so that you can enable that fingerprint login in your applications. So the third reason that passwords suck is that logging in on certain devices can be absolutely brutal. So what does that mean? What am I talking about? Well, let me paint you a picture. A couple of years ago, I got a TV. It was a Fire TV, which means it's connected to Amazon and you can log in. It's a smart TV and you can get Netflix and Hulu and all the different apps and stuff. And so I set the TV up, I go to log in, and on one application, it says, all right, enter your email, enter my email with the on-screen keyboard. Then it says enter your password. Now I myself use LastPass to store all of my passwords that are really random, really complicated, and nothing that I'm going to remember. So this means to log into this application on that TV, I have to open up LastPass in my phone, go and view that password, and then manually type in on that on-screen keyboard each different character of this really random password. And I basically stopped when I got to the point of having to enter my password. It wasn't worth me logging into that app because of how difficult it would be. Now, let me contrast this with the opposite of that, which is where you can have what's called a device flow to log into certain devices. So same thing, we're on the brand new TV, we set it up, or we're setting it up. We try to log into an app. What the app will do is give me this code, ABC123, whatever it is, and it will say, go to this website where you can enter that code and then validate you are who you are. So you can enter your credentials on your phone or your laptop, something where you're more comfortable typing and actually entering that password. Now, if I do it on my phone or my laptop, I have LastPass app that can autocomplete that thing. So now my login process is I open this app, I see this code, I go to my phone or my laptop, I paste that code in, I give it my password through LastPass, and now I'm in. I didn't have to type anything on this on-screen keyboard, which is about as poor of an experience as you could possibly imagine. So device logins can be absolutely brutal if they're not done well, and if they're not done with the user in mind in this case. So if you're interested for a little bit more on how device authorization flow works, which is what I just talked about, Got another link in the description below for you to check that out. All right, so those are 3 reasons why passwords absolutely suck, but I gave you a few tips on what you can do to try to help yourself out. Now, if you're interested in setting up social connections for your application to make it easier for users to log in, and if you want to go as far as to enable that Device Biometrics login with their fingerprints as an example, you can sign up for a free account with Auth0 with a link below. Let us know if you have any questions. If you have any additional reasons why passwords suck, put those in the comments below. Thanks as always for checking out the video, and we'll catch you next time.